What happens when the very foundations of the MAGA movement begin to fracture from within? Megyn Kelly, once Donald Trump's fiercest and most loyal champion, has now stepped forward and said, plainly and without apology, that she is sick of it. Sick of a president who can no longer behave like a normal, dignified human being. Sick of an American leader who casually threatens to wipe out an entire civilization, men, women, and innocent children as a bargaining chip for a shipping lane. This is no longer a simple disagreement about policy. This is the deep structural rot eating away at the core, the kind that doesn't collapse overnight, but will inevitably bring the entire edifice crashing down. Stay with me, because what you're about to see is far more consequential than it appears, and it may forever change how you understand the true state of this movement.
Or with many Americans. I mean, I don't know about you, but I am sick of this. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human? I mean, honestly, like the president, 3D chess, shut up. Shut up about that shit. You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization. We're talking about civilians just casually in a social media post. His negotiation tactic is to kill an entire country full of civilians, men, women, and children. An American president so that the Strait of Hormuz will be opened. It's just wrong. He can't be a dignified, strong leader without threatening a bunch of war crimes.
Here's what's truly striking, my friends. Even Megyn Kelly, a woman who once fiercely defended Trump, is no longer talking about policy. She's calling out his character itself. And that crack you just heard? It's only the first drop of water leaking through the ceiling. What lies beneath is far worse.
Didn't he answer that question when he said the blood was coming out of all of your body? Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in New York. Any homeowner will tell you this: water damage is always worse than you think it is when the water is dripping out of your ceiling. Sure, that is horrifying, and what you can see is awful and traumatic, but it's the lasting stuff, the deeper stuff, the stuff under the surface, behind the drywall, down into the foundation, the mold, the smell, the rot. So often it is orders of magnitude worse. Should be easy enough for a former real estate developer to understand that theory. There's a lion's share of Donald Trump's most high-profile political supporters are now in unprecedented fashion seeking to separate themselves not just from his policies and his unpopular war and his unpopular handling of the Epstein files, but from the man himself, from his character, from his whatever they think his moral fibers were made of before they turned on him. We'll show you first the latest from we showed you the first from former Fox anchor Megyn Kelly. But you have to understand, we watch this so you don't have to. And this isn't some sort of surface level flip-flop and damage you can just monitor by flipping through these things.
This is precisely what the water damage truly means. It's not just surface leaks you can wipe away. The rot has already seeped deep beneath the drywall straight into Donald Trump's character and into the very moral fibers of the MAGA movement itself. And now, the evidence of just how far this silent damage has spread is becoming impossible to deny. What comes next will show you exactly how deep that rot has gone.
You got to say, the deal sounds very much like surrender on our part, which I'm in favor of. I mean, great. This needed to end. Ugly or any other way. It needed to end. It was folly to begin with. It was folly throughout. It remains folly. The young person coalition that Charlie Kirk delivered to the president is gone. They've abandoned Donald Trump. The working class, Piers. The latest poll that just came out showed he's 2 points underwater with the working class. That's been Trump's base from the beginning. They were the unshakable foundation that got him elected over and over. And they're gone. They're very angry.
In terms of political temperature checks, those sorts of comments are notable. So is the fact that Megyn Kelly has also joked in recent days that, quote, Trump could drop a nuke and she'd still vote Republican over Democrat. So there's that. But all the same, it highlights a degree of vast, unprecedented, not since he descended the golden escalator, daylight. not just between Trump and his media cheerleaders like Megyn Kelly, but now between Trump and, as Megyn Kelly points out, actual unshakable blocks of MAGA voters. The New York Times used AI to analyze more than 40,000 comments to Donald Trump posts on his own social media platform and reported to have engaged unease and anger bubbling up in that echo chamber, showing the depths of the discontent over the war. Quote, one user who indicated on their profile page that they supported President Trump 100% wrote that Trump had demonstrated a lust for blood. A Trump-loving conservative wrote that such threats would destroy the president's legacy. Quote, I'm honestly heartbroken, the user added. While social media sites tend to have a large number of bot accounts, the New York Times highlighted only examples showing no obvious signs of bot activity. Only a quarter of the comments were supportive, including posts praising Trump's backbone and asking him to finish the job. And all of that is just on the question of Iran, which has been going on for 40 days. Before that, there was the Epstein controversy, which Melania just brought back into the center ring. It is another issue over which MAGA and MAGA cheerleaders have expressed frustration with Donald Trump and his administration. But again, thanks to Melania Trump, for reasons about 2.5 hours since they happened, are still not clear. In case you missed those comments, Melania Trump, in head-scratching fashion, went to the podium after calling for the pool to assemble to discuss what she called smears having to do with her and Jeffrey Epstein, despite the fact that no one knows what those smears are. She also called on Congress to continue investigating the men in a matter her husband has repeatedly called a, quote, hoax. That's where we begin the hour with the president of Media Matters for America, Angelo Carasone. Also joining us, Charlie Sykes. He's the author of the newsletter To the Contrary. And Miles Taylor is still with us. Angelo, I'm dying to know what all of you think the Melania Trump statement was about. But on this larger portrait of what Megyn Kelly describes, what Ann Coulter describes in the last block conversation Miles and I just did, the things that figures on the left and in the mainstream media have been saying for 9 years now, that the corruption is out front and in front of everybody, that the violations of norms are now policy, that the conduct seems, to quote Marjorie Taylor Greene, quote, insane, and that no one can keep straight in satire or in straight political journalism which crisis is distracting from which?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One, the effects of all of these are cumulative. I think that sometimes people are looking for a moment where, they make this critique and then something suddenly changes. And as you noted in the intro, even though they are hitting Trump and they are criticizing Trump, they are still careful to say, but I would probably still vote for him, right? They're not willing to go that far. They're not, and that's okay for now. What's significant about this, though, the so what, is that because the effects are cumulative, it's not just that they are sort of wearing away, right? It started with policy critiques. That's where it's been for a while. And as you noted, it's starting to get more personal. They're starting to acknowledge that there's something at the core here that's wrong. There's issues of judgment. There's issue of character. That's all brand new, right? That's what happens when the effects are cumulative. So that's one piece. It starts to tear down the veneer. And for a figure like Trump, not himself, he relies a lot on kayfabe. He's a character. He's a character. That's why he gets away with so much, because he's a character in this larger story, which means he's a media creature. So not only if you tear away and you start to strip away at some of that storyline, it makes it harder for people to carry water for him. But when they are critiquing him, even if they're not willing to go so far to say they would change their vote, they're not carrying water. They're
people like that who are really separating from the president. The president put out a pretty lengthy social media post about this yesterday, and I'm just going to read part of it to you. You have it there on the screen. Pardon me, my allergies. Tucker Carlson, who couldn't even finish college, he was a broken man when he got fired from Fox, and he's never been the same. Perhaps he should see a good psychiatrist. Narrator's note, I should tell you. Tucker Carlson went to the White House as recently as February 23rd, 5 days before the war began. Okay, Megyn Kelly, who nastily asked me the now famous Only Rosie O'Donnell question. Narrator's note, she campaigned with Trump in November of 2024. Candace Owens, who accuses the highly respected First Lady of France of being a man, and she is not. She interviewed the president in 2021 at Mar-a-Lago. Or bankrupt Alex Jones, who says some of the dumbest things and lost his entire fortune, as he should have, for his horrendous attack on the families of Sandy Hook shooting victims, ridiculously claiming it was a hoax. And final narrator's note, Trump appeared on Alex Jones' show in December of 2015. It was a little while ago, but he said to him, "Your reputation is amazing."
It's been pretty remarkable to see the influencer class, the kind of independent media types, including some of the ones that we just saw there, split with Trump over the war in ways that we haven't necessarily seen the opinion hosts on a Fox News or conservative media, traditional broadcast. And what I did is I actually looked at the Spotify charts to see the top podcasts.
And we're going to put that up because it's fascinating.
It's very interesting because the top 14 podcasts on Spotify, 6 of those podcasts, these are not all politics podcasts, but 6 of those people happen to be people who have aligned with Trump in one way or another or endorsed him in the 2024 campaign, but have split with him at least on the war, if not on other issues. So that creates this kind of unusual and unprecedented dynamic where people who are subscribing to these shows and hearing them, who may be more casual voters, maybe not, politics watchers intensely, are getting some very skeptical takes on these issues in ways that they may not have otherwise before. And so I'm going to be really interested to see how this might play out in the election. I don't know if we know exactly how something like this plays, but it is very one-sided right now in this space.
And these numbers are so remarkable, I thought, because these are the most popular podcast. So this is a lot of people we're talking about. This is a very big audience, probably, no offense, bigger than CNN daytime, right, in the aggregate. And this is a lot of people who are, hypothetically, potentially interested in Trump's politics, who are now hearing, as you said, a lot of criticism from a lot of these figures in a space that is not all that political, right? So these are exactly the type of infrequent potential voters that Republicans are so worried about in November, because those are the ones that they think Trump is discouraging and at risk of losing.
When we look at how all of this is playing out for the president, it has been striking this week to hear the backlash from a number of voices in conservative and MAGA media when it comes to the president, specifically his threats involving Iran and annihilation of a culture. Take a listen to some of that.
I don't know about you, but I am sick of this. I'm sick of it. Can't he just behave like a normal human? I mean, honestly, like the president, 3D chess, shut up. Shut up about that. You don't threaten to wipe out an entire civilization.
It is vile on every level. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing straight. How dare you speak that way on Easter morning to the country? Who do you think you are?
How do we 25th Amendment his ass? And if I was the Democrats, I'd stop poking Trump and messing with him. That only makes it worse. Like, you guys need to watch out. This isn't a guy acting like he's crazy. This is real.
So there you have some of the backlash, which is, based on what we're seeing from the president, it's making its way to him.
I see no altruism in any of it. I'm sorry to be so cynical. It's all about clicks. Look, President Trump is never one to turn the other cheek.
This is bad for MAGA, very bad. Let's be brutally honest about what we're watching unfold. Some Republicans will still cling to the numbers and insist Trump still commands the majority of MAGA. And in a narrow sense, they're not completely wrong. He remains the biggest name, the loudest voice, the central figure in that world. But here is the deeper, more uncomfortable truth that so many are still reluctant to confront. This is no longer just a handful of high-profile voices peeling away. This is a slow, structural fracture running right through the heart of the movement. Donald Trump is term limited. He will not run for president again, no matter how much he talks about a third term. The Constitution and cold political reality have already closed that door. Meanwhile, other ambitious figures inside the party are quietly positioning themselves, eager for their own turn at power once he steps aside. More importantly, Trump is now an old man. His clock is ticking, louder and closer to midnight than many want to admit. Whether you support him or not, The future of this movement must eventually move beyond one single individual, and that future is approaching faster than most are prepared to accept. Then comes the cold, unforgiving mathematics of American politics. Even if only 10 to 15% of MAGA voters begin to walk away, people who once formed his unshakable base, that small shift represents roughly 5% of the entire electorate. In today's politics, 5% is everything. It decided 2016, it decided 2020, it decided 2024. 5% can flip the House, flip the Senate, and decide who sits in the White House. History has taught us repeatedly, when any political movement becomes overly dependent on one personality, it grows brittle. And in politics, brittleness always ends in breakage. What we are witnessing right now, the public exhaustion from longtime supporters, the quiet heartbreak in the comments, the growing unease, even among those who once defended him without question, is not a passing storm. It is the unmistakable sound of the foundations shifting beneath their feet. The question is no longer whether Donald Trump can hold MAGA together today. The real question is, what remains of the movement when he no longer can? If you've stayed with me this far, you already know these moments are rare and profoundly important. This isn't just another news cycle. This is history unfolding in real time. If these truths matter to you, if you believe in truly understanding where this country is headed, then I ask you to do two simple things. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. And please, leave a comment below. Tell me what you think. I read every single one of them. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.